Day 11. Providing short answers 1.
Listen to the following news and answer the questions. First, you have some time to read the questions. Now listen to the news. Good evening, everyone. Here is the summary of the news.
Shots were fired in a South London street by escaping bank robbers.
4 rock fans died in a stampede at a concert in Chicago.
And how an Air France Concorde was involved in the closest recorded miss in aviation history.
Now the news in detail.
Shots were fired this morning in the course of an 80-mile-per-hour chase along Brixton High Road in London. A police constable was injured by flying glass when a bullet shattered his windscreen as he was pursuing a car containing 4 men who had earlier raided a branch of Barclays Bank at Stockwell. Police Constable Robert Cranley had been patrolling near the bank when the alarm was given. The raiders made their getaway in a stolen Jaguar, which was later found abandoned in Croydon. Officials of the bank later announced that £16,000 had been stolen.
4 people were killed and more than 50 injured when fans rushed to get into a stadium in Chicago yesterday where the British pop group Fantasy were giving a concert. The incident occurred when gates were opened to admit a huge crowd of young people waiting outside the stadium for the sale of unreserved seat tickets. People were knocked over in the rush and trampled underfoot as the crowd surged forward. The concert later went ahead as planned, with Fantasy unaware of what had happened. A police spokesman said that they had decided to allow the concert to proceed in order to avoid further trouble. There has been criticism of the concert organisers for ensuring that all the tickets were sold in advance. Roy Thompson, leader of Fantasy, said afterwards that the whole group was shattered when they heard what had happened. They are now considering calling off the rest of the United States tour.
The United States Air Force has admitted that a formation of its fighters and an Air France Concorde recently missed colliding by as little as 10 feet. The Air Force accepts the blame for what was the closest recorded miss in aviation history. According to the Air Force spokesman, when the Concorde was already 70 miles out over the Atlantic on a scheduled flight to Paris from Dulles International Airport, Washington, 4 U.S. Air Force F-15s approached at a speed from the left. The lead plane missed the underside of Concorde's nose by 10 feet, while another passed only 15 feet in front of the cockpit.
Forest fires in the south of France have claimed the life of another fireman as they continue to rage in the hills between Fréjus and Cannes. Fanned by strong westerly winds, the flames are now threatening several villages and many holiday homes have had to be abandoned. The French army was called in yesterday to assist the 1,500 firefighters that have so far been unable to contain the spread of the blaze.
And that's the end of the news.
Providing short answers 2.
Listen to a phone call between a mother and her daughter and answer questions 1 to 6 with no more than 3 words according to what you hear from the conversation. First, you have some time to read the questions. Now, listen to the phone call.
Hi, Mum. How are things?
Oh, hello, Jane. Are you all right?
Yeah, great. I just thought I'd phone to let you know we're okay. It's all really wonderful. The weather's fantastic. I'm sitting here in short sleeves and I'm still hot. I can't believe it's December. Did you get my card?
No, the postman hasn't been here for a couple of days. But you know what the post's like at this time of the year. They've probably got a backlog to catch up on. How was your flight in the end, by the way?
Oh, awful. It was a typical charter. We were delayed and had to sit around for hours, so we didn't take off until after midnight, and it was 5 in the morning before we got to the hotel.
Oh dear, what a pity.
But we're making up for it now. On Monday we had a great day in the beach, just lying in the sun and swimming. The water's lovely. You know, not at all cold. That was to recover from Sunday when we hired a car from one of those rent-a-car agencies and drove all around the island, up into the mountains. It was really spectacular. I mean, the scenery is wonderful.
Oh, that's good. I can see you're going to have a good fortnight.
Yeah, it's all going by too fast. A fortnight is too short. I wish now we'd booked for 3 weeks instead. Still, can't be helped. Listen, do you think you could come and meet us when we get back? The plane gets in at about 6:15 on the 8th. Let's see, I have the tickets here. Yes, it says arrive 6:15 on January the 8th.
Yes, of course, dear, don't worry, we'll be there. Now, just make sure you put lots of cream on if you're lying in the sun in all that heat.
Well, actually, I fell asleep on the beach the other day and had a really red nose, all peeling and burnt.
Well, be careful. And what's John up to?
Oh, he's having a lie down. He isn't feeling very well today. I think it's something he ate. We had a big meal out last night, so perhaps the food was too heavy. You know, they eat really late here. We still have another hour before dinner.
Good heavens! We had our supper hours ago.
Providing short answers 3.
Listen to the following interview and answer the questions with no more than 3 words. First, you have some time to read the questions. Now, listen to the interview. Good afternoon, Mr. Brown. Do sit down. Now, tell me, what made you apply for this job?
Well, I've been wanting to improve my position for some time, and it seemed to me that the job you advertised would give me an opportunity to learn more about marketing and sales techniques in general.
Where are you working at present, Mr. Brown?
Well, actually, I haven't got a job at the moment. I had a job as chief clerk in the buying department of a retail store, Johnson & King. I expect you've heard of them. But to tell the truth, I didn't quite hit it off with the sales manager.
Oh, why was that, Mr. Brown?
Well, he was rather old-fashioned in his methods, and the sales policy of the firm seemed to me too slow. I'm a great believer in the personal approach to selling. I took a course in business management at the London Commercial College, and I'm afraid I found Johnson & King's methods very out of date. They first opened in 1880, you know, and I don't think they've changed their ideas since then.
Really? In that case, you may be interested to know that our firm first started business in 1870, and we believe that the old slogan, "The customer is always right," still holds good today. I'm afraid our chairman, Samuel Jackson, great-great-grandson of the original founder of the firm, Josiah Jackson, does not approve of high-powered modern selling technique, and with some justification, as our export figures show. We base all our sales technique on Peterson's theory of salesmanship, published in 1900. I presume you've read it.
Oh, well, actually, no. But I'll make a point of getting one from my local library without delay.
Do that, Mr. Brown, and then come and see me again.
Providing short answers 4.
Listen to the following talk between two friends and answer the questions with no more than 3 words. First, you have some time to read the questions. Now, listen to the talk. Do you know what, Tom? It won't be long before we'll all be travelling to space in a cable car.
A cable car? What do you mean? A sort of skylift?
Well, yes, I suppose so.
You must be joking. Where on earth did you get that idea from?
Oh, I've just been reading it in a book called Apes to Astronauts by Adrian Berry. He's the science correspondent of the Daily Telegraph, so he should know what he's talking about. He says, wait a minute, I've got it here, page 28. A cable car to the heavens.
Oh, honestly, Jane, you surely don't believe all that stuff you read in those sci-fi books?
It's not science fiction, it's a fact. Hang on, I'll read you what he says. The space writer Arthur C. Clarke, to whose inspiration we owe the communications satellite, recently outlined a proposal for a new means of space travel, which, he admitted, is so outrageous that many of you may consider it not even science fiction, but pure fantasy. Shall I go on?
No, just tell me how he thinks it could be done.
Well, it sounds quite simple, really. One end of a cable, 23,000 miles long.
How long?
23,000 miles. Do listen. One end of a cable, 23,000 miles long, would be attached to a point on the Earth's equator, and the other to a satellite in geostationary orbit.
So?
The cable would be absolutely tight between the 2 points, and the elevator would travel up and down, carrying people and freight. According to Arthur Clarke, it's the only way to travel in space without using rocket engines, which would make it much more economical. I wonder if it would be more comfortable.
It sounds pretty uncomfortable to me, and heaven knows what speed it'd be travelling at. What would happen if the cable broke?
Oh, he explains all that. Apparently, the most likely place for it to break would be at or near the ground, and if that happened, it wouldn't fall down, it would fall upwards.
Upwards? Yes, I suppose it would.
Yes, sounds funny, doesn't it? Something falling upwards. Anyway, it wouldn't matter too much either if the cable broke away from the high end. It'd remain rigid until it could be reattached to the satellite. I don't quite see why.
Well, it would be the pull of gravity from above. Anyway, who'd want to be stuck in an elevator attached to a rigid cable thousands of miles up in space? I suppose he doesn't say what would happen if it broke in the middle.
Actually, he does. He says it would be dangerous if the break occurred at any altitude up to 15,000 miles, because the bit attached to the Earth would... what does he say? Oh, yes. Collapse and wrap itself around the equator like a whiplash.
Whiplash?
You know, the long bit of cord or leather on a whip. Anyway, even that would only be really catastrophic if the cable was made of steel or some other metal. Metals are much too heavy. The cable would have to be made of some material capable of suspension without snapping.
But I thought you said the cable would be 23,000 miles long.
I did, but the 3,000-mile breaking length is because of gravity.
Well, all I can say is you'll never catch me going to space in a cable car. I'd rather keep my feet on the ground, thank you very much.
Providing short answers 5.
Listen to the following talk about UFOs and answer questions 1 to 8 with no more than 4 words. First, you have some time to read the questions. Now, listen to the talk. Do UFOs really exist? This question divides people into 2 sharply opposing camps, the believers and the non-believers. The former is quite convinced that extraterrestrials exist and travel around the universe in flying saucers. The non-believers are sure that the only form of life exists here on Earth, and that any UFO sightings can be scientifically explained as purely terrestrial phenomena. So let's take the believers first and see what evidence they have to support their belief. For many years, there have been reports of strange flying objects, and in 1947, the name of unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, was given to these phenomena. Many of the reports of UFOs have a curious similarity. The objects are generally described as disc or cigar-shaped. In daylight, they appear silvery, often luminous or surrounded by an aura. At night, they have the appearance of bright lights, often yellow-red in color. They are said to travel at high speed and accelerate rapidly, frequently disappearing suddenly. A sound, described as a low hum or swish, has been heard when the UFOs appear, and they sometimes stop and hover or rotate over certain spots, as though observing something. These reports have come from all types of people: policemen, farmers, walkers, aircraft pilots, children, housewives. In fact, no one class can be selected as being particularly susceptible to sightings. Perhaps, though, the most convincing evidence has come from the aircraft pilots, whose visual sightings have been supported by radar tracking. Most radar operators have compared the UFOs on their radar screens to large aircraft, though they have an unexpected manner of simply vanishing, unlike a normal aircraft. Certain photographic evidence of UFOs has also been produced, although many of the prints are unclear or blurred. But the most astonishing reports have been of close encounters with UFOs. Dr. Hynek, director of the Center for UFO Studies in Illinois, USA, has classified these encounters as of 3 kinds. A close encounter of the first kind is when a witness reports seeing a UFO within a few hundred meters, often when it has landed on the ground. A close encounter of the second kind is when the UFO has left a physical trace, such as an indentation or scorching of the ground, a burnt area of vegetation, or broken telephone wires or tree branches. A close encounter of the third kind is when people report actual contact with alien beings. Here, the descriptions vary widely from reports of normal-looking humans, generally wearing unusual clothes or speaking a strange language, to those little green men with 4 legs. This third kind of encounter is the most difficult to believe in, although many of the witnesses appear to be sensible men and women not given to lying. From all the different kinds of report, there seems to emerge a general pattern of UFOs. There is a high level of agreement on the shape, color, movement and sound of UFOs, but far less coherence when describing extraterrestrial beings. To the non-believers, they don't exist. In fact, the non-believers state quite categorically that all UFOs have a scientific explanation. They are either natural phenomena, such as ball lightning, marsh gas, comets, or northern lights, or they are aircraft seen from an unusual angle. Non-believers also suggest UFOs might be planes or rockets which are on government secret lists and therefore of designs unknown to the public. They discount the evidence of radar sightings, as the screens sometimes show up radar shadows or mirages of things which do not exist. Photographs are dismissed as fakes or as pictures of aircraft taken from unusual angles. Finally, the three types of close encounters are discounted by the non-believers as hoaxes, hallucinations, or people misinterpreting information. The first kind of encounter can be accounted for in the same way as a flying saucer seen in the air, as a natural phenomenon. The second kind of encounter usually has a natural cause, the heat marks resulting from fires caused by lightning or people's carelessness, the telephone wires and branches being blown down by high winds, and the indentations resulting from subsidence of the land. The third kind of encounter is generally disbelieved because no photographic or taped evidence exists. It is also felt that the witnesses may have been suffering from abnormal mental or physical states at the time. So, to sum up, it is very difficult to say whether UFOs definitely exist or not. The evidence for their existence is rather weak, but on the other hand, there are certain strange phenomena which cannot be explained scientifically at the moment. Perhaps we can leave the subject with a quote from Dr. Hynek. Maybe the whole phenomenon is not as mysterious as we think. After all, 100 years ago, we knew nothing about nuclear energy. Maybe our scientific knowledge is just not advanced enough to explain UFOs. In the meantime, reports will continue to pour into the Center for UFO Studies, and spotters all over the world will continue to watch the skies for signs of man from outer space.